Welcome to The Call, an exclusive conversation hosted by the Chamber's Global Intelligence Desk. We're delighted you are able to join us. Please note the views of our guests today are not necessarily those of the Chamber, but we hope you will find those views as valuable as we do. Please feel free to put questions into the Q&A at any time, and we'll address as many as we can after the interview. Let's get started. Good morning, and welcome to The Call, brought to you by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington. I'm your host, Jay Sapsford, and here is today's question of the moment. What does Russia hope to get out of the BRICS Summit? As the IMF and World Bank meet in Washington this week, Russia is wrapping up the 16th BRICS Summit in the western Russian city of Kazan. BRICS is growing. After its original members, Brazil, Russia, India, and China added South Africa in 2010, the group this year added Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. Dozens of other countries are seeking involvement. The pageantry in Kazan allowed Russia to show that it isn't isolated, even after Western condemnation for its attack on Ukraine. And by many measures, hosting BRICS makes a powerful statement. Its members account for 26% of the world's landmass, 37% of global GDP, 41% of the world's oil production, and 45% of the world's population, and finally, 3 of the world's top 5 military forces in China, Russia, and India. Russia, sanctioned over Ukraine and banned from dollar transactions, sought to advance one of BRICS' most ambitious goals, an alternative to the dollar. Few saw signs of significant traction towards that goal, but it is clear that diplomatically, BRICS is becoming a force on the global stage. All of which raises a series of questions. Can Vladimir Putin claim the summit was a success? Does BRICS present a true counterweight to the West? Will there ever be a BRICS alternative to the dollar? What does the growth in BRICS mean for global commerce? With me now is Sergey Aleksashenko, a former Russian central banker and a board member of the Center for Analysis and Strategies in Europe. Sergey, welcome to The Call.
Jay, good morning. Nice to be with you, and hope to have nice questions.
I wonder if we might start with what this summit has meant for Russia diplomatically. The West has tried to isolate Russia, but this shows it still has friends. Does this improve Putin's political legitimacy?
Inside the country, definitely, yes, because Vladimir Putin was able to demonstrate that more than 30 leaders of different countries are able to shake hands with him, to visit his country, to celebrate, I don't know which event, and to be friends, to demonstrate that they are friends, members of the one club. It's like demonstration that Russia is able to circumvent Western sanctions by building better economic relations with China and India and Turkey and some other countries. So from a political image view, yes, Putin got a success, but that's it, nothing else.
Okay, well, we see a lot of countries that want to join. I think there was something like a couple dozen heads of states that were present in the confab in Kazan. Do Russia or China lose leverage as more countries are included?
Not yet, because the countries that were included this year, they do not play a significant role in the club. But on the other hand, we have to remember that BRICS is a club with no rules, no commitments, no goals, and no ideas. It's like a club of those, initially a club of those who was not invited to G7, and now it's more a club of who is not happy with the policy of G7 countries. And that's it, nothing more.
I say, but that said, there are some members who want to maintain strong ties to the West. No, I mean, Putin himself has said it's a non-Western group, but not an anti-Western group. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, correct. Because initially the idea of Putin holding this summit was to demonstrate that that is a strong anti-Western coalition. At least when and if you read Russian newsletters about BRICS Summit written before, let's say a month or 2 months ago, it was a strong anti-Western coalition demonstrating that we hate the Western dominance in the global economy. We want to change the international financial system. But the declaration of the summit is very soft, is very gentle. Moreover, there is a straight phrase that we support current international global financial system based on the IMF. So that's it. So and that's why we definitely may say that not 1 or 2 members of BRICS, but the majority of BRICS members, they don't want to ruin the current international order, at least in the economy field.
I see. But that said, if you look at some of the traditionally Western institutions, let's take the UN Security Council, for example. That was a grouping that's formed on a war that ended 70 years ago. It seems that BRICS, at least going forward, might become a little bit more relevant to the global order, given that it represents some of these countries that are very dynamic and coming online now and contributing to the global economy in the way that wasn't true 70 years ago when the United Nations was formed. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Jay, you're right, but discussions talks about possible restructuring of the Security Council, UN Security Council, are ongoing for more than a decade. And before the Russian invasion, there was a significant progress in this area. At least countries started to debate the number of seats in the Security Council, and it was, let's say, between 21 and 25, 26. And there were a certain agreement on increasing the number of permanent members and how to split, to share votes, new votes in the Security Council. So there was a progress between G7, let's say, and non-G7 countries, and countries were negotiating, moving on. But Russian invasion stopped this process, blocked this process. Yes, the declaration, summit, BRICS declaration says that we support restructuring or renovation of Security Council, but nothing new. While Russia is in war, while Russia is invading Ukraine, I do not believe that any progress in this area could be achieved.
I wonder, that's very interesting. I wonder if we might compare this with the G7 at this point. We noted at the top that the contribution to global GDP is greater by BRICS than it is by the G7 member states at this point. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
We can try, but like any club, there is a club of billionaires, club of millionaires, club of those who have several thousand dollars, or a club of those who have no dollars at all. And each club is similar to the next one because of the organization. But the G7 countries, they are united by several several ideas, like all of them, they're Western democracies, they're free market economies. Each of them have a free convertible currency, and their idea is to keep the current international economic order in place. So what unites BRICS countries, I cannot understand. Maybe we can say, okay, each of BRICS countries have a non-convertible currency. None of those countries is a real free Western democracy, maybe except of India. To a certain extent, we may say India is the biggest democracy in the world, yes, but is it democracy? I don't know. And do all of those countries support current economic order, international economic order? Soon or not. Each of them see some potential benefits if the order will be restructured, but no one is able to say what to do and how to do. So we may compare any club with another club, but I do not see any decision made by BRICS countries within how many 15 years of their existence. So it's declarations, but nothing else.
Okay, if you've just joined us this morning, this is The Call, a regular video conversation in which we address the geopolitical issues of our time. Today we are discussing Russia and the BRICS Summit with former Russian central banker Sergey Aleksashenko. Please feel free to put questions in the Q&A. All right, well, let's talk about currency. I think the hurdles to replacing the dollar as a global reserve currency are significant, but what about the dollar-based payment system? The SWIFT system, for example, is like 50 years old, and I know this is an area of your expertise given your time as a central banker and finance minister and working at the finance ministry in the past. So please, your thoughts.
Jay, let's split SWIFT and payment system, because SWIFT finally is a messaging system. It's not a payment system. It's a system of sending financial messages between banks. And of course, if we talk about international payment system, it is based on US dollar and euro. They're the major currencies that are used for international trades and major international transactions. And after Russian invasion, Russia was blocked, at least many of biggest Russian banks were blocked from international settlement system, and they are not able to settle in dollars or in euros. And of course, this creates a lot of hurdles for the Russian foreign trade and ordinary financial transactions. And Putin and his economy, his banks, they tried to build complicated schemes using Chinese renminbi, Arabian dirham, or sometimes Turkish lira, or even cryptocurrency. And one of the ideas promoted by Russia before the summit was to try to reach an agreement to build an intra-BRICS payment system that will settle in national digital currencies. So to me, this idea was very strange because I have to re-emphasize that currencies of BRICS countries, they are not convertible. And to try to launch a trade between countries with non-convertible currencies is very strange. Moreover, the digital currencies of the central bank, they are not in operation. But even in China, it's in the very initial stage. But from the declaration, we see, from BRICS declaration, we see that no progress has been achieved. There is a phrase that we support the activity and let us, ministers of finance and chairmen of the central banks will investigate this idea further on and report us on the next meeting. So it failed completely, and I do not see any significant appetite, let's say, from China to launch such a system. If you look on the structure of the Chinese foreign trade, between 45 and 50% of their export and import is going with the Western bloc. That means that they will, in any case, those countries will settle in dollars or in euros or in Swiss francs or British pounds, some convertible currencies. And I do not see why China should shift to another very complicated non-evidence payment system. So that was the idea. That was the idea. But it was badly designed and was not supported during the summit.
I see. Now, you raise an interesting point about SWIFT. As you noted, it's the messaging system, and the most actual transactions are done on chips or other forms of other platforms. But I note that China has a system that, while its volume is still very small, it does combine those two functions, and that it is, from a very small base, growing relatively quickly, and it's something worth monitoring, I would think. Am I mistaken about that?
You're a little bit mistaken. Within Russia, there is the same messaging system that is based on, it's designed and implemented by Russian IT specialists, but it uses SWIFT standards. And the problem is that the idea is that maybe all international banks who are involved in international transactions, they combine SWIFT messages with their internal IT systems. So they don't need any transition between them. So receiving a message via SWIFT, it goes directly to IT system, to the internal IT system of the bank. So it seems that for outsiders, that SWIFT is a payment system, but in fact, it's a messaging system. Yes, China has the same system. Russia has the same system. Moreover, Russia and China discussed and even launched some experiment combining their system, because the standard of the message is the same, it's the same SWIFT system. But it doesn't help, because if you use, let's say, Chinese system or Russian system between Russian and China, you should have, if you send Russian system, the Chinese bank should have an account in Russian rubles. Otherwise, it's useless. Yeah, you can send a message that takes money from Russian banks and should give it to a Chinese bank. But if Chinese bank has no account in Russian rubles in Russian central bank, it cannot be done. So it's messaging standards. Yes, they're the same, more or less the same all over the world, but payment system is different.
I wonder, the fact that we're talking about this, is this evidence that perhaps the Western countries have been too quick to rely on the dollar as a punitive weapon for diplomatic or geopolitical purposes?
They were over-optimistic. The biggest difference between, let's say, the biggest problem that was not significantly underestimated is that Russia could avoid this pressure by imposing capital controls, virtually making Russian ruble non-convertible currency. So the Central Bank of Russia, as any central bank, needs its foreign exchange reserves if it wants to support the exchange rate in the domestic currency market. But if, as a central bank or as the government, you are allowed to limit demand for the currency, if you are able to not allow for some business entities to purchase foreign exchange in your domestic market, it's very easy to regulate exchange rate of the ruble, of the national currency, even under sanctions. Moreover, we should not forget that for many years, since the disintegration of the Soviet Union, when Russia became independent, Russian economy has a very strong positive current account balance. That means that the foreign trade and trade in goods and services for Russia is positive. So Russia has inflow of currencies, and in this respect, the frozen of currency reserves of the central bank did not play any significant role.
I would think that one reason for that is Russia's powerful exports of energy. And I noted that recently some of the transactions in oil now are being conducted in euros. Is this a crack in the defense of the U.S. currency as the de facto currency for all of oil-based and energy-based transactions?
Jay, you are mistaken. In the US regime of sanctions, as well as in the European regime of sanctions, Russian banks, even under sanctions, are allowed to settle in euros and dollars if this is energy-related transactions.
I'm just wondering now, we got a couple of questions coming in from our readers, and one of them, top of the list here, is what advice do you have for the White House in managing BRICS going forward?
Just keep calm. It's not an entity that violates any interest of G7. The White House should keep good relations, or try to build good relations with every member of the BRICS community, and that's it. Because there is no, I would reiterate, no underlying idea within BRICS community. They don't know why they're together and what they want to achieve.
Okay, and another question we have: Kazakhstan has notably decided not to join, and I wonder what do you see as the reasons for that?
I think it's domestic political interests of President Tokayev and a very complicated position of the country, which is tensed between Russia and China. And moreover, there is a referendum going on in Kazakhstan about nuclear power station. So I think that a Kazakh leader, Kazakh president, a Kazakh political community would like to wait and see what BRICS is about. Moreover, before BRICS Summit in Kazan, there were several statements from Russia and China and India that we are not looking to extend membership furthermore. We are looking to have some associate membership. So if you are not ready to accept any new country to your club, why should we send our invitation?
I understand. I'm wondering now, here's a question from another audience member. Is there a possibility of some sort of a trade agreement between these countries, a sort of a USMCA or something else? You had noted earlier that there are strict capital controls in many of its members, might make such an agreement difficult, but I just wonder what your thoughts are on that front.
No, I do not think that any trade agreement between those countries is possible, because some of those countries, let's say like Russia, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, they are very similar in the structure of their trade. So energy, oil and gas is the primary product of all those countries, and they do not trade among themselves. So there is no big trade, significant trade between Russia and those countries, as well between Russia and South Africa, Russia and Brazil. So USMCA is a trade union, a trade agreement between countries that are very close together. They have common border, and geographical distance plays a significant role. And we may find why US and Mexico are interested in free trade agreement, because Mexico has an excessive labor force, and US is looking for the cheaper labor costs. Yeah, and that's creates you a bigger economy. The only one pair of countries is Russia and China, where the trade is significant amount between them in dollar terms, and for Russia it's exceeding even 30% at the moment. But for China, Russian share in export is import is between 3 and 5%. So it's not a significant amount, and definitely for China, any special trade agreement with Russia is not beneficial.
Okay, our audience has had their morning shot of informational espresso, so we'll leave it there and tackle the day. Let me thank Sergey Aleksashenko, former deputy Russian central banker and a board member of CASE. Sergey, thank you very much for joining us today.
Jay, thank you for this conversation. Happy to be with you.
If you'd like to reach out to our guest, please see his email under the resource bar at the bottom of your screen. And a warm thank you to you, our members, for joining us today. If you have a theme you would like us to cover, please feel free to reach out to us at the email on the screen, globalintel@uschamber.com. We are planning many shows in the coming weeks and months, and we welcome your suggestions and feedback. This has been The Call, brought to you by the Global Intelligence Desk of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington, asking the right questions to navigate uncertain times.